Jacob Thorne had spent years believing the plains were all he'd ever come home to, until a letter from a woman named Lyra began unraveling the loneliness he'd worn like a second skin. Weeks of exchanged letters turned strangers into something quieter, deeper, something that made Jacob repair his porch, tidy his home, and hope for the first time in a long while. But the day she finally arrived, she wasn't the reserved village woman he'd imagined. She rode in with Apache beadwork glinting in the sun, braids tipped with feathers, posture unshaken by miles or danger, and when she stepped onto his porch, she said the one line that made Jacob forget the whole world for a heartbeat. "It's not a mistake. I'm yours." But before her words could settle, the ground itself began to tremble. Riders, fast, armed, and furious, closed in, claiming they'd come to drag her back to a fate she never chose. Now here's what you need to ask yourself as this story unfolds. Why would Lyra cross forbidden lines, defy her father, and face rival warriors, all for a man she never met? And when the riders reach the doorstep, will Jacob stand as her partner, or crumble under the weight of the truth she carries? If you want to know how far two strangers will go when the world demands they break apart, stay till the very end of this video. And if you love stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Your support keeps these tales alive. Here, the story begins. "It's not a mistake. I'm yours," the Apache woman said to the rancher who was waiting for his intended. Jacob Thorne had lived alone on the remote stretch of the plains for so long that he'd almost forgotten the warmth of hope until the letters started arriving. The first one was short, penned with deliberate care, signed with just one name: Lyra. She wrote that she respected the straightforwardness in your advertisement from months back, that she, too, longed for a union rooted in mutual regard, and that she was seeking a path forged by her own will, not by others' demands. Jacob responded, and then she wrote once more. One exchange turned into a handful, and gradually, a connection between two unfamiliar souls emerged through words on paper rather than shared glances. Jacob had pictured a reserved lady from the villages beyond the hills, someone unassuming, someone who favored quiet understanding over sharp disputes. Her notes were reflective, and even though she never delved into her looks or heritage, he never dwelt on those gaps. He just figured, when the last message came, vowing her travels toward him, that he'd mend the entry steps, fix the creaky planks, pile firewood in tidy stacks, and tidy his homestead with extra attention. He waited with real eagerness at first, and then the delay turned aching. Days dragged into weeks without a sign. Folks in the settlement started murmuring that he'd been duped, that it was naive to trust a voice without a face. Jacob tried to brush off the chatter, but each evening, as he set the lantern on the porch rail and gazed out to where the ground kissed the horizon, uncertainty would settle in. That shifted the instant he spotted the solitary figure drawing near. At first, she was just a faint shape shifting over the parched earth, but as she neared, Jacob took in her adorned mount, with intricate beadwork catching the glare of the sun, feathers bound to the reins, fluttering with her rhythm. The traveler was a woman, but not at all the one he'd envisioned. She rode upright, assured, untouched by the miles she'd covered. Her attire was customary, Apache hide, finely made with embroidered designs that whispered tales he couldn't yet decipher. Her hair, dark and flowing, was divided into twin neat plaits, tipped with pale feathers. Her very being filled him with instant wonder. When she arrived at the porch, she swung down smoothly, securing her horse with a quick loop. She leaned one palm against the post, her stance firm yet watchful. Jacob moved to the threshold, the lantern dangling forgotten in his hand, pointless in the broad day of day. "You're a long way from your village," he ventured, his tone guarded. "I've found the right spot," she answered. "I came for the fellow who written those letters." Jacob stared, caught off guard. "Then you're Lyra?" She inclined her head once. "I am, and I'm the woman you consented to wed." The declaration landed like a quiet thunderclap.
He'd woven a whole portrait in his thoughts, worlds apart from the person now before him. He felt a pang of silliness, a flush of chagrin for all his presumptions. "You're Apache," he murmured, not as blame, but as simple truth dawning. "I am my father's child," she responded plainly. "And I am someone who charts her own course. You spoke of seeking a companion who walks at your side, not in your shadow. That pulled me here." He swallowed hard. "But you never mentioned, you never asked," she said, without edge. "You pictured me from a village beyond the hills. You pictured plenty, but I never misled you." He dipped his head, taking it in. "No, you didn't."
She edged nearer, her tone gentling. "My father barred me from this journey. He thought a stranger unaware of who I am would turn me away or do worse. When my replies halted, it was because he intercepted them. But learning you'd kept writing, kept holding on, that told me your heart was steady. So I went against his wishes. I came." Jacob's breath caught. The boldness it took to stand against her kin, it left him profoundly moved. "I wonder if I merit that sort of trust." "You don't," she stated, straightforward. "Not quite yet, but faith grows from deeds, not from dreams." Her candor didn't daunt him. If anything, it steadied him. He set the lantern down on the decking, seeing now it was no barrier between them anymore. "If you remain," he said, choosing his words with care, "this way of living, not just words on a page." Lyra's eyes warmed, a spark of tenderness breaking through her poised calm. She closed the gap a bit more, resting her hand lightly on the frame near his. "It's not a mistake. I'm yours." Before Jacob could find his voice, a low shudder ran through the soil. The thunder of hooves, many of them. He whipped around to the open expanse and caught sight of a band of horsemen topping the rise, closing in swiftly, spread out but purposeful. Lyra's gaze sharpened. "They're not from my kin." Jacob's hand went straight for the rifle propped by the door. Who might they be? Rivals from a rival clan. "They think I was pledged to seal a pact. They'll try to drag me home." Jacob went rigid. "They'll have to get past me first." Lyra shifted to his side, her resolve as solid as stone. "Then we meet them as one." The riders closed in a narrowing arc, grit kicking up from their mound strides. Jacob and Lyra held their ground on the porch, the dawn of their joint days already shadowed by peril, yet neither yielded an inch. The group reined up a ways off, their horses stamping, edgy from the hard ride. The foremost swung down with command, his steps crisp and intent. His features were streaked with ritual marks, signs of a seasoned fighter. His stare fixed on Lyra. "You departed without leave. Your father has dispatched trackers. You've stirred discord." Lyra met his eyes without flinching. She advanced a pace, spine unbent, face tranquil. "I stirred nothing. My choices are my own." The fighter's brow furrowed. "You were betrothed to bind our peoples. Your flight endangers that tie." "I never consented to that betrothal. Men decided my fate without hearing me. That's no true honor." Jacob stayed close, drawing a quiet breath to center himself. "She's staying right here," he stated, level and sure. The warrior pivoted to him, eyes flashing. "You think one firearm holds back fighters honed from youth? I think honoring her choice is the only path worth taking. That's what guides me, beyond any dread." The warrior regarded him, maybe, braced for wavering, finding only resolve. His mouth set firm. "You're a simpleton," he grumbled. Another rider, younger and hot-headed, leapt down, eyes blazing. "You dishonor us by claiming her." "I never claimed a soul," Jacob clarified. "She arrived on her own terms."
The youth lunged ahead, hands balled. "Your kind seize fields, herds, all they touch. Now you seize our daughters." Lyra's words sliced the air clean. "I am no prize taken. I selected my way. If my will offends you, direct your grudge at me, not him." The young one hesitated, unsettled by her steel. The leader lifted a palm, calling for quiet. "Lyra, your father fears you've been deceived or compelled." Lyra's features softened with hurt at the motion. Then he doesn't truly see me. I bow to no fear, and no one rules me. Before further talk could unfold, another rumble rolled over the flats. A fresh wave of riders neared, bearing known emblems. Shields dyed in Lyra's family's hues. Leading them was an elder with piercing eyes and a composed bearing. Lyra drew a quick breath. "My father!" The initial band parted as her kin's group pulled up. The elder dismounted unhurriedly, his focus on his daughter alone. He approached her in silence, his expression a mask. Lyra held her poise, offering no plea, no withdrawal. At last, the elder spoke. "I thought you'd been seized." "No," she replied, her voice gentle. "I chose to leave." The elder turned to Jacob, sizing him up like one appraising a bold claim from an outsider. "You're the homesteader she corresponded with." "Yes." "She trusted your sentiments. If you shatter that trust, you shatter her essence, and that I cannot pardon." Jacob held the grave look. "I seek not to curb her or reshape her. I seek to craft a life where we shape it side by side." The elder weighed him in a lingering silence, perhaps probing for deceit, perhaps gauging the quiet fortitude under the homesteader's plain garb. Whatever the test, something in Jacob's calm seemed to ring true. He faced Lyra again. "Do you claim him of your own accord?" "I do," she affirmed, without a flicker of doubt. "And you grasp the repercussions?" "I grasp them fully." The elder let out a breath. "Then you carry my consent." Murmurs rippled among the assembled men. The fiery youths glowered. Some softened. A handful inclined their heads in quiet accord. Lyra moved to her father, drawing him into a swift clasp, a moment brimming with affection, and the quiet nod to her step into her own choices. As she drew away, he settled a hand on Jacob's arm. "Guard her not as something breakable, but because her guard falls on you as well." Jacob nodded. "I will." The men swung back onto their saddles, dispersing in twin streams, one grudging, the other with tempered esteem. When the final silhouette faded past the rise, Jacob and Lyra lingered on the porch, the quiet thick but soothing. Jacob broke at length. "Your realm stretches wider than mine ever did. I never grasped how much trails the choice of you." She turned to him, her gaze kindling. "And I never saw the depth of your resolve until you took your stand with me." He offered a soft curve of a smile. "So, what's our next step?" "Now we shape it," she said. She crossed into the homestead, back to the spot where she'd first declared, "It's not a mistake, I'm yours." Jacob trailed after, sensing the novel, cherished pull of a tomorrow woven together. No pact, no debt, no fancy, just two souls selecting one another, boldly, without reservation. Their shared days commenced not in comfort, but in valor, and that forged it enduring.